and a very warm welcome to episode 8 of the podcast Cultural Communication Confidence. Today, we're going to be talking about how to improve your cultural intelligence, otherwise known as CQ. CQ can be incredibly powerful. It can be powerful when you're working in culturally diverse situations, when you're working globally, when you're working in teams spread out all over the world, or with customers in different locations. And yet, sometimes we're not very sure about how to improve our cultural intelligence. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about some practical actions and ideas that you can take to start you on that journey to improving and making sure that you as an individual and a team feel that cultural intelligence difference. Let's start with what is cultural intelligence. What is CQ? And I particularly like the definition which comes from the Cultural Intelligence Center, which talks about it as a capability. So something that we can improve. It's the capability to function and relate in culturally diverse situations. I think this definition is fantastic because it focuses not just on awareness and knowledge, but it goes beyond that and thinks about how we interacting and communicating with others, connect with them. This is why I think this makes a very big difference. The benefits when we get it right are fantastic. It means that we are more successful in our performance and in our teams. Teams work better together, are more effective, and can therefore deliver things faster and more efficiently. And ultimately, that's good news for business. That brings sales and profit. And yet, of course, not everybody is at the same level of cultural intelligence. We're all on a journey. And what that means is that if we have low CQ scores, then perhaps what happens, and you've noticed this before, is that we react. We have situations where people are reacting to each other and perhaps getting frustrated by what's going on. When people have average CQ scores, this means that they are starting to build some awareness and knowledge, and they maybe recognize some of the cultural dynamics of what's going on in a situation, but they're not really sure about what's the best way to deal with this or how to change what they're doing to get to better results. The ultimate goal is to have high CQ. When we have high CQ, this means that we know when to adapt and when not to adapt. We understand some of the cultural dynamics of what is going on in a situation, and we know what we need to change in our communication approach to be more successful in the way that we connect with others. Now, clearly, the idea of being on that journey of improving our cultural intelligence takes time, and we need to invest in that as we would invest in anything where we're developing ourselves and understanding how to improve. So in this very short episode today, what I wanted to do was to give you some starter ideas of how we can approach this to start getting your think going and open up the conversation with you about what you can try today. To do that, I'm going to be using the framework from the Cultural Intelligence Center, which is a framework of 4 key capabilities. I did an introduction to this framework in a previous episode. I think it was episode 5. So if you haven't had the chance to listen to that, please go back and listen to that episode as well to give you a bit more depth to these ideas. But assuming that you have listened to it, let's get into these starter ideas for improving your own CQ. So to start with, the first capability is drive. And what this is about is our motivation and confidence in culturally diverse situations. So how can we improve our drive? Well, I think this comes down to us trying to put ourselves into situations which are perhaps not our usual norm. So finding out, and seeking out those opportunities to learn and grow, to be exposed to different types of cultures, to understand how others operate in different situations. The thing to realize is that might not be easy to do. So whether it's socially or at work, you may need to really find those opportunities to volunteer for the types of projects where you'll be working in more culturally diverse situations. The other thing to say is that isn't always comfortable. So, acknowledge your feelings around that and know that it may not come easily, but you will certainly be having learning through that process. So those are a few ideas to do with drive. Now, if you move into the next part of the framework from the Cultural Intelligence Centre, then the focus is around knowledge. Now, knowledge and improving our CQ scores in knowledge is really fun. I often say to people, it's like you want to be a social anthropologist. This means you want to really examine how people do things and try to work out what's driving their behaviors and their communication approach. So a very simple way to do that is to observe. Observe people, whether that's in meetings or in presentations or in calls. What are they doing? And what do you notice is going on? You could also seek out opportunities to learn and gain knowledge about different cultures through really a wealth of resources. So whether it's reading, watching, listening, scrolling, get yourself together a range of resources and ideas to really build up your knowledge. And I think, with this, just bear in mind that often we are very focused on what is different, but don't forget to acknowledge that there are similarities as well. So, focus on what makes us similar as well as what makes us perhaps different in our approach. So there are a few ideas around knowledge. The next part of the framework is all about strategies. So this means that we need to do something with this knowledge. And a very simple idea here is before your next major meeting where you've got many different cultures maybe joining, think about this idea of planning. So you have some insights maybe now, some ideas about how different cultures maybe like to communicate. So think about what you can adapt. What is it you're going to plan to do differently in the meeting to get to a better result? If you do that, then it's really important then to reflect afterwards. What worked well? What perhaps you would change for next time and do differently? This is really part of the process. Planning and trying and then reflecting on those learnings. And then the final part of the framework, which is all about action. I'm very much about action, which is why I love this framework. And for me, a few ideas here are really about what is it you're going to adapt in the way that you're communicating in your verbal and non-verbal communication style. At a basic level, just think about how you are talking. And I don't mean just in conversation. How are you talking on emails? How are you connecting with others that way? What have you noticed about the emails that they're writing to you? And how could you adapt what you're doing to perhaps reflect more their natural style? Also think about your body language and your non-verbal communication. So that could be about hand gestures, about smile, eyes, facial expressions. So really consider what is it you might need to adapt to really be more successful in the way you communicate. In this area, I often sort of ask people to think about it almost like a volume dial. So in some cultures, you may need to dial up what you're doing and be more expressive. And in other cultures, you may want to dial it down so it's a little bit quieter and more muted, and perhaps it's more focused on what's being said rather than how it's being said. So there we go. Those are really just a few starter ideas here today to really help you on the start of this journey of improving your CQ. I really hope it's got you interested and curious about this topic. I'm very passionate about it. So if you're an individual, has this inspired you to take some actions today? Which of these particular ideas will you start with first? And if you are the leader of a team listening to this, where do you think your team, it would make the biggest difference to your team to focus, to develop their CQ, which would make the difference for working together with each other and perhaps externally as well? I would absolutely love to know. So please do feel free to reach out to me and tell me which the ideas that you tried out and how it went for you, because obviously this is about an individual experience as well. The best way to do that is to connect with me on LinkedIn. So over there, my personal profile is Victoria Reynoldson, spelled RENNOLDSON. And also, if you find this area really interesting and you think you can see the importance of this and the impact it could have for you as an individual or for your team and business, then please do reach out to me, because maybe you would like to take the next step on this journey, which is to find out your current CQ scores today. I do a CQ assessment, which gives you a very detailed breakdown of how you're performing against all the capabilities and subcategories within that framework. This can be very powerful insight and can help with then the next stage, which is putting together very personalized strategies for you to really make sure that you're making that difference and fast tracking your development that has an impact in your performance and also in your business. So please do reach out to talk to me about that, and I'll put the links in the show notes below. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this episode, then please feel free to subscribe to the show. This means that you'll get an alert each time an episode goes live, which currently is weekly. And of course, if you're really enjoying these episodes and you've started to listen to a few of these and you find them valuable, it would mean a lot to me if you could rate the show, leave me a review, and this really helps to make sure that I can spread the word and make sure that more people also get to listen to this particular podcast. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to talk to you about how to improve your CQ. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.